It is absolutely either people need to better understand the reality of this policy, or it's too unpalatable for them. But I think just pointing the finger at the assessment provider won't change any of that. There's got to be better understanding, and for me personally, it's about driving trust in that environment, and without that understanding, I don't think we'll get trust back into this environment, and that impacts on people going through that process, causing unnecessary anxiety at the moment, and for the staff delivering it, it's equally as unpleasant at times.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's interesting that you said you've been involved in doing assessments to put people into a category for they're out of work or fit for work since 2005, and previous to that, first of all, you know, it was invalidity benefit then incapacity benefit. But none of those times, so the assessments have always been done, but none of them created the atmosphere, the toxic atmosphere that you've just described. So what is it about this particular benefit, or is it this particular process, or is it this particular policy that's different from what went on before, that's made this so much more of the word toxic comes back to my mind, it made this so much more of a problem in actually administering for you as a company, but actually for the government in delivering on the policy? Is it the policy? Is it the structure of the way it's being administered? Is it the lack of communication? Or is it a combination of a number of things?
I'm going to let Angela respond to this one.
I've been doing this for a very long time. I've done it since it was invalidity benefit.
So that goes back to what, 1990,
about the year dot. I actually started doing it as a sessional in 1985. So that's how old I am.
When it was managed by the department?
When it was managed by the department. And for the first 10 years that I did it, it was managed by the department.
Started when you were 17 then.
That's right. I was a child bride. But I think for me, I mean, seeing the changes from invalidity benefit to incapacity benefit to ESA, there has been a step change every time, but the level of information gathering, the level of detail, etc., that we now apply is much in excess of anything that we used to do, you know, way back in even when we started doing incapacity benefit, and when ESA was introduced at first for new claims, it was a different environment. People, I think, did have a different expectation, but when people who had been on incapacity benefit for many years were then brought up to the plate, as it were, to be considered against a different set of parameters, I don't think that they really grasped what the implications of that were, and I think that was where things began to go wrong in terms of the perceptions that people had about the assessment.
Now, I was trying not to talk about PIP and DLA because they are very separate and people keep getting them confused, but is there not a lesson in what you've just said, that it was actually the reassessment of existing claimants but under a completely different set of criteria? Isn't that what's going to happen with DLA claimants under the new PIP criteria? And is the government setting itself up to potentially fail again, because for the same reasons that you've got a group of people who think they're entitled, that's why they get their benefit, and as a result will feel very aggrieved when they don't match up to the new criteria when they was clearly did to the old one.
So I'll take that one. I think there are absolute similarities to be drawn. I think
you've got the
at
contract.
The moment we've got the contract. We are in Atos, we're only dealing with new claims on PIP. However, we will in the future see people who have already got an expectation of benefits set, and I think that's where you meet a number of challenges if you learn the lessons from incapacity benefit reassignment. These are people who've got an expectation of benefit already. When you bring them in, you've then got the challenge of that expectation against where the policy now sits compared to where it previously sat is different, and that will come with similarities, and it's incredibly important those lessons are learned.
And you've got great long backlogs with just the new payments and PIP. So it's looking a bit worrying, isn't it?
There are, I think it's a very different benefit, and I think as an organisation we've learned some lessons as well, and we are not processing the natural reassessment until claimants yet. We are really clear that assessment process needs to settle and move forward, so we're very clear on actually what do we need to do before we take the next step into actually bringing people back through. And I think that was one of the things that Professor Harrington said he actually talked about, was not starting the reassessment process until you've settled down and stabilised the assessment. And having learnt the lessons and been through the pain, that's something that I personally would endorse.
Because by the very nature of the fact that people are on DLA means that they are at the more severe end of the disability spectrum than the people who are on ESA.
They have a clear expectation of benefit, yes.